Unidentified flying objects, or UFOs, are a very real phenomenon. Their unknown nature and unearthly capabilities link them to extraterrestrial life, an idea which captured the imagination of many. This broad public interest over the years meant pop culture picked them up in a big way, telling many incredible stories about and including them. Today's video will be looking at both the fictional and real sides of UFOs because it's far bigger than you might realise. As mentioned, today we're looking at unidentified flying objects because the whole topic of aliens and UFOs fascinates me. And that new Spielberg movie just came out, or is about to come out if you're watching via early access on our Patreon, and thank you if you are. Now, UFOs, they're a worldwide phenomenon that dates back further than you realise, but I feel like they're much more of an American thing overall, especially with how they took hold of the public's mind in the late 40s and into the 50s, with jumps in popularity since then. There have been big calls for disclosure of government secrets, and productions of all shapes and sizes, capitalising on interest in the topic. I mentioned Steven Spielberg just now because of his new movie Disclosure Day, but he's been making movies about UFOs and aliens since the start of his career, though there have been many other people making genre-defining fictional creations about UFOs. What I'm saying overall is that the topic is essentially modern American folklore. On one side there are supposedly real sightings and stories, and governmental hearings about them, albeit ones lacking evidence. And it's all deeply tied into American-produced pop culture. Think of how much Roswell and Area 51 pop up in conspiracy theories, which goes on to influence pop culture and media. And quite rightly, I feel, that area of the unknown but technically possible makes for great stories, which is what makes the topic fascinating. And this applies to both the fictional side of it, as well as the supposedly real sightings that have gone on all over the world. I've got lots to say about those later on, but for now we're sticking to fiction. And boy, there is a lot of UFO fiction, covering the full spectrum of sightings and aliens and their motivations for being here. And I don't mean the big crazy alien invasion stuff like Independence Day, though that is absolutely related. I mean the smaller scale stuff of spooky sightings, alien visitations and abductions. I feel like these can be split into three varieties, though there is overlap so we get a nice Venn diagram. Two of these circles are kind of opposing each other, with the first one being bits of media with antagonistic aliens. This is more the horror side of things, with spooky goings-on and abductions that lead to horrible experiments. The X-Files, that giant of UFO media, obviously does this, but one of the most viscerally terrifying is Fire in the Sky. It's got that one big scene that stands out from the whole rest of the movie. The second circle is where the UFOs and their occupants are friendly, or at least ambivalent and not harmful. This does still overlap with the previous circle though, because often these two concepts get paired with each other. X-Files again of course counts here, but there's also some absolute classics like The Day the Earth Stood Still, Cocoon, or Escape to Witch Mountain. And of course, Spielberg's work sits in both of these circles. War of the Worlds is on the antagonist side. The TV show Taken he produced is maybe in the middle. And on the good side there's E.T. and Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And I'm certain you love one or both of these movies. How can you not? The curiosity, the adventure, the uncertainty, and the wonder. And always lurking in the back of your mind with both of these movies is that slim chance that they could be real. That is the magic of UFO stories. The third circle of this diagram is the ones where there are UFOs and extraterrestrial life, but they're all a puzzle to be unraveled. So the likes of Sphere, Contact, and Arrival, all of which push things a bit more out there in concept in various ways. All the real sightings, and by real I mean ones in reality, not that they're real aliens, are most like those puzzle stories. There's a mystery there to be figured out, and like the X-Files, there's also supposedly a major international cover-up going on, with a big starting point being whatever crashed in Roswell, New Mexico one fateful night in 1947.
Hello.
The interesting thing there is that the cover-up was absolutely real, but it was actually concealing a secret program to listen for Soviet nuclear tests, not aliens. That was the big kickoff for UFOs and aliens in the eyes of the American public. It started off with flying saucers, but sightings of them shifted to cigar shapes and triangles, which could easily just be misidentified aircraft, though we don't know for sure. They are, after all, unidentified by definition. But at least back then there used to be something with a distinct shape to it, inspiring all these amazing UFOs we've got in fiction. These days it's very different, with many being awfully boring orbs, which sounds interesting and exotic until you realise that any distant or out of focus light source looks like an orb. So while this shift in UFO forms could be their technology changing just as our own has advanced, I think it's more that these days it's so much easier to actually identify a flying object. Cameras are better, people know more, all of that stuff. By process of elimination, this tends to leave only the totally unidentifiable blobs and dots, which are boring because they cannot be confirmed as being anything, because there's almost no information there. But that doesn't stop people imagining what they could be, in part driven by all that cool UFO media we talked about earlier. But I think the modern imagined stuff is less interesting than older flying saucers which had room for occupants, rather than being a tiny probe. Not that all probes are necessarily bad, of course, but the Navigator was also a proper ship. At least some of those blobs and dots can actually be identified by matching time and location to known objects using public aircraft transponders or satellite trackers. Objects way up in space have always been a common source of UFO sightings from people who simply do not know they are seeing Venus, the ISS, or a rocket launch, or the thousands of Starlink satellites SpaceX has put up there in the last few years. What makes these sightings stand out to people is that humans are really, really bad at estimating distance, size, and speed without context clues. And this gets even worse when seeing a recording of a sighting, especially one done with a telescopic lens. Like, look at these quick mock-ups I made in Blender. Which ball is closer or larger? Did you get it right? Look at how zooming in and out with this moving camera makes the ball appear to change speed, despite it not moving at all. This is why I'm skeptical of these videos of what appears to be a fast-moving distant object, since without context clues, you can't actually tell anything about it for sure. People making assumptions about speed, size, and distance also colours their perception about what else an unknown object is doing. For example, one of the more famous ones of these videos has a UFO blob filmed from an aircraft circling an airport. You could see this video as a small thing slowly drifting along, dipping out of visibility due to video artifacting. Or you could see it as something zipping over the water in the background, and even going in and out of it, all without slowing down. This special power of UFOs to go between air and water has now become part of the lore, dubbed transmedium capability, and one of the trailers for the new Spielberg movie shows this exact thing. Which is cool to see modern UFO lore integrated into fiction like that, but this whole idea might have come out of a misinterpreted, low-resolution video of a tiny dot. The problem is, we can be pretty bad at interpreting what we're seeing, and even worse at remembering what we've seen, because memory is really, really weird and changes over time without you even realising. Add bias on top of all this and you can understand why some people absolutely swear that what they saw in the past, or what they see in a recording, is a strange alien craft, or a huge mothership hovering over the ground, where others just see a bunch of balloons, or a couple of irrigated fields. That actually happened, by the way. And this is all a shame really, isn't it? Between the decades of UFO lore and all the pop culture media that sprang out of it, the possibility that we are being visited from beyond the stars is known to basically everyone. It's unfortunate that the best evidence for alien visitors here, that we have publicly available to us at least, is all in the murky, low information zone where it can't be confirmed to be anything either way. Though that doesn't stop grifters and charlatans preying on the hopeful, constantly leading them on with tales of undeniable evidence that they just can't show you yet. But you can buy their book while you wait. As the famous poster says, I want to believe, which is why the fictional stories appeal to me so much, and many other people. UFOs really do make for fantastic stories, but ultimately, given the poor quality of public evidence and how the topic attracts snake oil salesmen, stories are all that I think we've got. You can support Spacedock by joining our Patreon, where you can get our frigate, fighter and carrier design reference books, as well as 1 week early access to upcoming videos. Thanks to our supporters, and thank you for watching.